without further ado, Kerry and Sherry, welcome.
Good morning, everyone. I think it's funny every time I hear Kerry and Sherry, it's like we're the show. So thank you, Janelle, for inviting us. We're very excited. And I think, the best compliment you can have is that somebody takes something that you've done and wants you to replicate or spread the word even further. So we're excited to be here today. Kerry and I are going to share with you why at the department we feel that materials matter for Ohio students. And we truly do believe that all students deserve grade level, standards aligned, high quality instructional materials. And the department has committed to working on that and helping to provide resources for districts around that. So hopefully you gain some information and are able to share it with your districts. And if not, reach out to us if you need additional information at the end. So I'm assuming is the presentation, we don't see we see you in the audience, but I just want to make sure the screen is, you see the slide presentation is what I'm asking. Yes.
Sherry, just give us 1 second while we get things up and loaded.
Perfect.
All right. Okay. We are now ready to go. We're on your screen. Can you see everything, Sherry?
I can see the slides. Yep. This is good. Okay. And I'm getting my notes organized too. This is always fun. But I have to commend you on this blended approach. So nice job this morning. Okay. If we want to go ahead to the next slide. Did it go? Okay. All right, perfect. So many of you have probably seen what we call the place map for Each Child, Our Future. This is just an overview of the strategic plan. And really, truly, I think the one thing that we've seen at the department is it is embraced fully throughout the department, but we're also noticing that districts, ESCs, SSTs are embracing it as well. And so it's important to me, to Kerry in our office, that we ground our work in this. So the strategic plan, Each Child, Our Future, aims to ensure that each student is challenged, prepared, and empowered for his or her future by way of excellent pre-K through 12 education. And truly that's to lift aspirations, create hope, excitement, guide development of state level education policies, and promote high quality educational practices across the state. And as you'll see, as you'll see on this visual, there are many different components to Each Child, Our Future, but the first and most important is that vision. And that vision will be achieved with a focus on the whole child, which is why the whole child is in the middle. And it commits to the 1 goal, the 3 core principles, the 4 learning domains, and the 10 priority strategies. Now, we're not going to go over all of those today, but we are going to focus on those core principles and how they prioritize equitable instruction for all students. Next slide. So as I mentioned, the whole child is at the center of Each Child, Our Future, and I'm guessing it's at the center of many of your strategic plans or the districts that you work with strategic plans. And, that is really to ensure that each child in each school in each community is healthy, safe, engaged, and supported and challenged. The time a child spends in a school is precious and should ensure all aspects of the child's well-being are addressed, including physical, social, emotional, and intellectual aspects. All of the components work together to ensure that whole child approach. However, there are 3 core principles that, for me, are the most critical. So we'll talk about those. I do want to point out, when you look at the whole child framework, there are components within even the whole child framework that focus on instructional resources and learning opportunities. And the first is that challenging learning opportunities are available to every child, and that each student in school has access to a challenging standards-aligned curriculum and differentiated opportunities. Also, that there are learning competencies, that the school's curriculum and instruction provide opportunities for students to develop critical thinking, reasoning skills, problem-solving competencies, and technology proficiency. A lot of those 21st century skills that we often talk about. One of the other components of the whole child framework is that there are high academic expectations, and that the curriculum and instruction and assessment demonstrate those high expectations for each student, and that they are aligned to the learning standards. Okay, next slide. Now, I've mentioned the core principles, and I really do firmly believe that these are a foundation to much of our work in learning and instructional strategies. Our office focuses, I forgot to do the introduction, I apologize for that. Our office focuses on the K-12 academic learning standards and the model curriculum, which many of you are aware of. More recently, though, we've started to really work on supporting districts with the selection and adoption and implementation of high quality instructional materials. So as I said earlier, we believe every Ohio student deserves the opportunity to learn from high quality, standards aligned instructional materials to become that resilient, lifelong learner who contributes to society. But how do you go about doing that? And those three core principles are one of the ways. And specifically around equity, we need to make sure that each child has access to relevant, challenging academic experiences and resources necessary for success, regardless of race, gender, ethnicity, language, disability, family background, or income. I think we heard through the pandemic, our rural schools were really challenged. Mainly with the internet access and getting to their students with the distance from the schools. So how can we ensure equitable access to high quality instructional materials? Another way is through partnerships. Everyone shares the responsibility of preparing children for successful futures. And so that's why you're here today. You are a partner, a critical partner with your districts in order to ensure those students have success. And all of those partners work together for that. And then ultimately our goal is quality schools. A quality school is where parents, caregivers, community partners, and others interact for the benefit of the student. Schools are an important destination where many individuals and factors come together to serve the student, and we all have to work together to ensure quality schools. So as we move through this presentation, I want you to keep this belief in mind. Every Ohio student deserves the opportunity to learn from high quality, standards aligned instructional materials to become a resilient, lifelong learner who contributes to society. Okay, next slide. All right, much of the presentation that we're going to go through now, we're going to present some data, some case stories, and a couple of little video snippets, and then also have a moment to do a Mentimeter. Hopefully it'll work to get your feedback. But to talk about, let's start with what's the current state of instructional materials. And access to high quality, standards aligned instructional materials, it varies drastically from state to state, district to district, and school to school, resulting in a wide variance in the quality of instruction and content put in front of children. I know for me, I was a previous principal and a previous curriculum coordinator, and we did not have a selected curriculum at many times. And so oftentimes you're pooling stuff together. So there was not that coherent curriculum in the classrooms. And that was different from school to school within the same district. Let's see here. Okay, go ahead to the next slide. Okay, this next slide is a video, and we did try it, so hopefully it works. But this video is from Amplify, and the goal of this video is to start understanding what high quality instructional materials are and the importance of them. So let's go ahead and push play and hope it works.
Teachers are the driver of the instructional experience. Everything shows that they are the most important ingredient, but when you pair a great teacher with high quality instructional materials, what you end up seeing is incredible growth for students, and we know that that combination is unstoppable.
I really worked hard pulling together a curriculum, and I felt like it was just very separated.
I had to write my own stuff, which was like Googling forever, like trying to find a video that connects with a simulation, that connects with this reading. So then you lost sight of your key concepts in your vocab. And so discourse wasn't that rich.
Teachers don't always have access to strong curricula, so they go out and they search for things that don't necessarily align to the standards.
We need to equip teachers with great materials that can enable them to focus on how do I make this work for my class.
First thing is standards. The materials really need to be aligned. The second thing is usability.
I have the science background for each lesson. I know that my objectives are coming from the 3 dimensions of NGSS, and so I can read it and understand it. And I feel as a teacher that I'm prepared to teach my students.
Like, look at my kids right now. Like, look at our kids. They're having conversations. They're using vocab. They're talking way more on topic than they would if you were just standing up at the front of your classroom and just lecturing.
But what do high quality materials look like in action in real classrooms?
It is low floors that give all kids access. It's high ceilings that challenge all kids to do great things.
I don't have to do this rigorous thinking about how do I reach this kid or that kid. Within the curriculum, you've made provisions for the different types of learners.
Most students stay at core, but I do teach a section of honors, which goes deeper and prompts them with more questions. On the other hand, some of my struggling writers, I can bring down a writing prompt that will give them sentence starters or helping them organize their ideas.
As a teacher, I feel extremely prepared going into the lesson, whereas before, my discussions were really based on just what students are remembering. Now they're based on what students are actually touching and pointing to.
Definitely feel like they're using the vocabulary in a different level. I mean, they're really writing like scientists and they're talking like scientists, which is amazing to me.
It looks like teachers and students collaborating together, questioning, debating, wondering.
I see moments of really focused work, and then I see times where the kids are really engaged with each other, and sometimes the noise level in the room goes up, and for me that's a good thing because they're excited about what they just saw.
They have a shared experience now, and it gives them so much more to talk about.
Teachers are able to share ideas with other teachers. They're able to grow from their peers' experiences, whether it's someone in their own school or someone in a school that's completely unlike theirs, far away from them.
In the end, it's about achievement, and we want to make sure that our kids are achieving.
From the formative assessment level, more kids raising their hands, more kids giving thumbs up versus thumbs down. They're also able to see real growth and real data long term at the middle of the year, the end of the year, and throughout.
You're getting our kids ready for Jeopardy in first grade. I mean, they can take this information and they can use it in college, they can use it in middle school, they can use it in high school. It's just an awesome experience.
Thank you, Janelle. So I think back to when I was in the building, and I think, think about the most recent time you were in a building and going through the classrooms. Actually, go up one slide. I think we're there. Oh, down one or to the right one. There you go. Stay. Okay. Thank you. Think about the classrooms or the school buildings that you've been in, and envision going into the different grade or the classrooms for a specific grade level. Let's say third grade. When you walk into those third grade classrooms, are they able to teach the students at the grade level that's expected with the rigor? Do the teachers have the instructional materials for them available to them to differentiate for all of their students? And I can say for my case, we didn't. And it was very hard as a principal and as a curriculum coordinator to support them because I was often pulling materials and, hoping that it was the best for their students. And it really should not be that way. Let's look at the data. This data really tells an upsetting story about student outcomes, and teachers are critical to this work. As ESC partners and SST partners, you are the voice of those teachers, those districts, and those students. And teachers deserve access to standards aligned, grade level, appropriate, engaging, rigorous, culturally responsive curriculum, just like you saw in the video. They also deserve high quality professional learning to support the implementation of high quality instructional materials. That's the one thing that we want to make sure we call attention to. There's always, I remember we did a science adoption. We got, I think it was Harrison or Prentice Hall, the little blue textbooks for science middle school. There must have been 13 for our middle school 6-8 set. And oftentimes those sat on the back shelf. And that was really sad because there was some great content in there, but the professional learning to go along with that implementation wasn't there, or it had been done prior to me coming on as a new teacher. What the data is telling us is that students and teachers do not have access to high quality instructional materials, and often this results in achievement gaps with our most at-risk students. And as you see here, the data collected by multiple sources provides that information. So you have, 1 out of 4 Black and Hispanic students who are not reading proficiently in 3rd grade. Let's see, students living in poverty not reading proficiently in 3rd grade are 13 times more likely not to graduate on time. Let's go ahead to the next slide. So take a second to read this. And if we're not providing students with grade level appropriate content to learn from and prepare, how can we expect them to achieve at the same level as their peers who are receiving the appropriate content? Regardless of background, regardless of income, race, culture, doesn't matter. All students deserve grade level content. Okay, next slide. The RAND Corporation, which has actually done quite a bit of research around high quality instructional materials and the implementation of it, found that a significant portion of teachers lack access to those materials, and therefore it makes it difficult to provide standards-based instruction. I think about teacher-based teams, how nice it would have been to have been able to say, okay, we're on section 1.3. I'm really struggling. My students did not pass or did not do well on the quiz. Hey, partner teacher, what did you do? Because your scores are amazing. I need some help in reteaching this content. But we didn't share curricular materials, so there wasn't a strong way to do that. The states that have adopted college and career readiness standards have identified a gap between the current instructional practice and the standards aligned pedagogy. So there's a difference in even the instructional approach. And within high quality instructional materials, there are methods and instructional strategies that are high quality, or that have, you think about Hattie's work, that show a significant gain in achievement. So that's the high focus there. Teachers lack access to resources or professional development. That's another strong area where we really feel ESCs and SSTs can support. Is okay, so a district has selected high quality instructional materials, but how do you go about implementing it? And as an ESC and SST partner, that's really where you can come in, is with that professional learning on those high quality instructional strategies. And the, let's see, currently available curricula varies dramatically in level of standards alignment. We all know, at least I think most of us know, the textbooks are not written for Ohio. They may have an Ohio sticker on them because they have aligned them to Ohio standards, but they aren't fully aligned. All textbooks and curricula out there have some gaps. And so we need to make sure that they are truly aligned to Ohio standards, and if not, provide resources for those gaps. Okay, next slide. This one goes back to what they mentioned in the video. Teachers are spending 7 to 12 hours per week searching and creating materials. Think about over the pandemic. I don't know about you, but when we held our virtual meetups, we had so many teachers come and tell us, hey, I found this great resource here. I found this here. I found this here. And you're almost inundated with resources. You're inundated with all of these materials. And how do you know if this is truly aligned to the level of rigor and the standards for Ohio? It may say it is, but how do we know? So that's a sad fact. It's 7 to 12 hours per week. That's a lot of time that could be spent on figuring out how to work individually with students, or just, I don't know, take a mental health break and relax. I think that would be nice for many teachers at this time. Okay, let's go on to the next one. We're going to try a Mentimeter here. And at the bottom of the screen, if you use your phone, if you go to Minty.com on your phone, or if you have the Minty app, you can either type in this URL down here, or I'll give you a code. So if you go to Minty, let me see here. Oh, it looks like Janelle, did somebody put the QR code on there? Because that's extremely helpful if you guys can access that. What I'd like for you to do is go ahead and go to Minty. The voting code, trying to figure out the best way to get this to you, is 7059 0070. I'm also going to put it in the chat box. The easiest way, though, is to use that QR code that's up in the right-hand corner. Open up your photo app and let it focus in on that, and then go to the site. And hopefully what you see, and I might need like show of the audience, if this is working here in a second, can you just raise your hand so I know it's working? Are you seeing the question that says, what resonated with you about the importance of instructional materials as an equity lever? Are you seeing? Okay, good. Okay, so go ahead and take a second and fill that out. And I'm realizing I'm not going to be able to project the answers, but I'm going to try my best to share what's coming across. Let me see here. Okay. Oh, good. All right, great. So let me see. Okay, some of the things, and I apologize. What we'll do is at the end of this presentation, I will, oh my goodness, I'm having some issues. Hold on. We'll do a PDF, a word cloud, so that you guys can see what's coming up. But let me tell you what I'm seeing on this end. Consistency is huge in the center. So as you guys know, a word cloud, the more times it shows up, the larger the word becomes. So the three large words that are showing up immediately are consistency, access, well, equity was, but now alignment and quality are. So consistency, access, high quality, equity, alignment are the main ones. And we've got disproportionate, love it, cohesive. I mean, let me rephrase that. I don't love disproportionate, but I love that somebody pulled that word. Low socioeconomic, rigor, impact, whole child, deserve, graduation, very true, unequal, differentiation, pedagogy, challenging, efficient, expected, and still right in the center, high quality, consistency, access, alignment, rigor's coming up now, individualized, conversations. And that's interesting. I wonder if that's conversations that students have in the classroom, or is that conversations that adults have around this topic to raise awareness? So that's a question. Low floors, high ceilings. Yes, that was great example or phrase from the video. Okay, let's go ahead to the next question. And let's see here. It says I have to do something. Give me a minute. Okay, how does that confirm or challenge your experience? So what resonated with you, how does that confirm, or what you've seen so far today, how does that confirm or challenge your experience? Is it letting you type in? How does it confirm or challenge your experience? Is this what you're seeing in the schools? Okay, it's starting to populate. We've got Hispanics are not graduating on time. I see the lack of consistent use of materials, curriculum that was researched, requested, and then almost immediately collects dust. Yes, I have experienced that. I feel like we have worked hard to give our staff and students high quality curricula. Excellent. So then my question would be, what's the implementation look like? How are we supporting our teachers in that implementation of the high quality curricula? Adult conversations are happening. Excellent. It's confirming trying to adopt curriculum now and Ohio versus national standards is proving to be an obstacle. Yes, it is. NGSS for science. We understand. We hear that. It confirms with what I've seen with teachers over the years, where those with low expectations elicit less student achievement and growth, and those with high expectations get more from their students. It elevates the conversation. Teachers are not using district curriculum. Our teachers are spending countless hours finding and creating resources. There are too many students that don't get equal opportunities in schools and beyond. The more we leave teachers without quality curriculum, the greater chance for Swiss cheese and what we are doing. I moved, I think, felt like every 2 years. I went to 3 different high schools and 2 different middle schools. And I always tell the story of I had to create a Kleenex box in wood shop. And I had missed measurement on a ruler. Well, my Kleenex box did not fit, or the box did not fit the Kleenex box. And I was mortified. I was embarrassed. But I was that hole in the cheese. I did not have that knowledge, that base of knowledge. And it was because there was not a consistent curriculum. I've had the opportunity to work in a variety of districts across the state, and this just confirms what I've experienced. There's a definite inconsistency across the state. You need to get all teachers on board with selected curriculum. Having high quality materials and resources available for teachers frees the teachers to focus more on the individual needs of the students. You guys are putting some excellent information in here. Continue to do that, and then we'll get that sent out after this presentation. And I actually do not have the 3rd question on there. We were going to do that in a chat, so we'll move past that. But go ahead to the next slide. I think what the theme that I'm seeing in those Mentimeters are really focusing on, some of the districts have that high quality curriculum. Some are doing some great things. Some have the materials, but there may not be the professional learning, and some don't. And the teachers are having to spend hours to try to find materials to meet their students' needs. And so that's a challenge. We have a varied approach here through Ohio, and we have to figure out how we can use our partners to really get this message out, and then to support the educators and districts. So next, Kerry is going to talk about why instructional materials matter for equity. So I'll go ahead and turn this over to Kerry.
Good morning, everyone. If you can go to the next slide, please. So research has revealed that, and it goes right back to what has already been communicated, that teachers deserve great instructional materials that get students excited to learn. And that when the teachers have great instructional materials, teachers can focus their time, energy, and creativity on bringing the lessons to life and finding ways to inspire their students to learn and grow. So with that, we need to think about how we're giving teachers better materials, aligning it to learning standards, so they have the support they need to make sure every student gets a great education, no matter what level they start at. And within this, teachers should play the active role in the selection and adoption of the process to be able to make the best decisions. Teachers do have questions, and research revealed that the teachers want to know, how does high quality instructional materials help them reach their goals of getting kids excited to learn and helping students at all levels to learn. They also want to know how materials provide targeted help for individual students, particularly with respect to the strategy for addressing the pandemic's impact, making it important to work together on expectations around the integrity of the materials as they gain those experiences. And finally, within this, trusting those that are closest to them in their classroom. That could be the fellow teachers, the school leaders, union reps, to give input on what materials to adopt if that is where you're at within the phase. Next slide, please. So high quality instructional materials, they provide engaging materials for all students to support rigorous student learning. They also build the content knowledge, and it offers common structures, routines, and vocabulary to better enable teacher collaboration. The next slide, please. So last spring, the Ohio Department of Education and the Ohio Educational Service Center Association sent out a survey on instructional materials selection and implementation. The purpose of this survey was to better understand how we can support districts across the state with review, selection, and adoption. And what we found was that 1/3 of districts and or schools will be adopting new materials within the next 2 to 3 years. So with this being said, there is some urgency that we're, providing those resources, providing those materials. So going into that, on the next slide, you'll see one of those supports is the Ohio's Curriculum Support Guide. So the Ohio Curriculum Support Guide was released this summer in partnership with Instruction Partners. Many of you may have already seen this. You may be joining our 5-part webinar series. But just to give you some more context to it, there's 3 distinct phases within the Curriculum Support Guide. And it goes into phase 1 of selecting great materials, preparing to launch the materials, and then teaching with the materials and learning how to use them well. So within each phase, this is to support the district. So if you can go to the next slide, show you a little bit more detail. So within those phases, this is here to help schools and districts, and it's meant to be used at your discretion to give you the flexibility. So it will have templates, there's downloadable resources for you, there's planning templates, guiding questions along the way. And what it does is make sure that every team has its own methods and habits of planning and organizing the work. So it gives you that framework. So within the Curriculum Support Guide, you can see that within each phase, there's many different aspects to it. So within selecting great material, it's starting with your process and who's on your team and going into a vision. And then that will continue over into preparing to launch. You're looking at your materials, you're selecting, you're reviewing. And then phase 3, really that teaching and learning and that implementation. And you'll see that it also sometimes it will take you back to that first part of going back to that vision and making sure you have that purpose. So the Curriculum Support Guide is organized into those frameworks, and it's a mental model for different elements of the curriculum selection and implementation process. So this is a material that is here to support you, give you the frameworks, and give you the guidance. We have already had 4 of our 5-part webinar series. We do have our final one on October 20th. If you haven't been able to attend, they have all been recorded. And once we are done, we will be providing those informations and resource, and we hope to be able to extend it into the spring. There's been a lot of great conversation within those. And one of the things that my takeaway from that and listening to district leaders, ESCs that have been involved is that implementation piece. We have the materials. Now what do we do with that implementation? So there's been a lot of conversation about that. If you can go to the next slide, please. Oh, great, Trisha. Yes, if you were there yesterday, it was some great conversation about the implementation. So that's great. So we want to I don't see the part of the video on the slide. There it is. So we kind of want to go back to a video just for some reflection and kind of bringing it back together. This is a short clip. So if you want to go ahead and start that, that would be great.
Kerry, I don't think we have that video linked in there.
Embedded in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, on the slide before?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
we
just
can
go ahead.
share it. Yeah, we'll share it out because it's something short, but it's nice to kind of see. It's the perspective of a 4th grade teacher, and kind of follows the story. Oh, is it loading? Oh no. Oh, that's weird that it wouldn't link. Okay, that's too bad. So, but we'll share it out so you guys can see it later at your own time. So if you just want to go on to the next slide, Sherry's going to kind of close us out.
Yes, thank you. And I will just say that video is, I don't know, maybe 2 minutes long, but it is so powerful when you're presenting to a group of districts or educators on why it's important to use high quality instructional materials. And it just, oh, Kerry, I think you might want to push mute. It talks about a student that had moved in, and he was in 4th grade, but he was reading at a 1st grade reading level, I believe it was. And the teacher The class was reading The Lightning Thief, and they were doing it as a group read and some independent read as well. But she handed him, or he brought in Clifford, the big red dog, because that was at his reading level in a 4th grade classroom. So here he is with all of his peers. They're all reading Lightning Thief, and he's reading Clifford. And the teacher recognized that, you know, he was just kind of sinking in and embarrassed. And so she pulled him to the side and made sure that he read Lightning Thief with his peers. And so she created those scaffolds so that he could read that 4th grade materials through some peer reading, through some collaboration, through work with the teacher. And at the end, he was writing the same responses as his peers, even though he may not have been reading at that 4th grade reading level. So he was allowed to have the rigor of instruction, even though there was a difference in that reading level. So it's really powerful, and it's very, very short. So we'll make sure we get that to you. So we've talked a lot about high quality instructional materials, but that's great. Where do you find them? How do you know if something's high quality? And there's a lot of discussion around that, but one tool that we have, we did not create this, partnered with Ed Reports to bring Ohio's version of Ed Reports to Info Ohio. So part of the remote edX work that we've been doing on the remote edX exchange is the Ohio Materials Matters site, which is powered by Ed Reports. So if you've gone out to Ed Reports, you know that it ranks curriculum as green, red, and yellow. So green being high quality, yellow being not, and red being definitely not. And there's different gateways that you go through. First and foremost, alignment to standards, and then it's, you know, what kind of supports are there for the educators to support student needs, and now there's technology integration in there. So all of those are being rated. It is not a quick rating process. It can take anywhere from 6 to 9 months, and sometimes up to a year, to rate a curriculum. And if a certain material is rated as red, they cannot come back for another year. And that happened with one of the English language arts curricula, is the 2000 and I forget which year, but we're going to go with 2012 version was rated red, and they came back. They did a lot of changes. They came back, and their 2020 version is green. So big difference. They listened, they worked with stakeholders, and they ensured that it was considered high quality. So I encourage you to go out and look at this site, Ohio Materials Matters. If you can't find it, and the only thing that comes to mind is Ed Reports, Ed Reports is the same site. It's just we have integrated this into Info Ohio site. There are a couple of other features that help, like the little note taking and the little heart that allows you to save them as you're going through an adoption with districts. So they do rate K-12 math, K-12 ELA, and they're now starting with science. And I believe there are materials for K-8 science, specifically 6-8 science has some green rated materials out there. So please check that out. And next slide. These are the links to those sites. So hopefully if you get time, check them out. I think the thing, well, Kerry and I, the message we really want to get across is, you know, we're trying to, what we've heard from districts is, well, a couple of things. One, we have a very solid core curriculum team. We don't really need help. We know what we're doing. We're good to go. That is beautiful. But then we hear the other side of, I am the assistant superintendent and I am running curriculum, testing, assessment, title. I'm also running food services and transportation. And that poor individual has these 10 different hats that they're juggling, and they cannot invest the time to research how to do a high quality curriculum adoption and implementation. So what do? We're providing you with the tools and resources. The curriculum support guide literally walks a district through step by step an adoption and implementation process. It also provides you with sample emails, sample letters home. I mean, it's extensive. So the hope is that at least by saving time for you, that will set the stage of here's how you do a high quality adoption. But as we continue through this process, we are providing those professional learning opportunities like the webinar. So you can always watch those. It is, they are being recorded. So Kerry can shoot you out the page of where they're being linked to. And so they're there, and we're hoping to rehost them again in the spring and then again in the fall, because that's when things tend to happen. So questions, Janelle, I think what we were going to do was maybe collect questions and then have you send them to us. But I'll let you take it over from here.
If you're okay, and you have a little bit of time, Sherry, we have a little bit of time in our agenda. We could get questions from people that are participating here. And if Tom wants to serve as kind of the moderator for questions in the chat, that would be great. So if anyone has any questions at this point, feel free to just raise your hand, or we can kind of hear you, and hopefully Sherry and Kerry can answer any questions you might have.
I do have one request that's coming to mind. It's not a question for us, but we are always looking for case studies for Ohio. Like if you're working with a district and you feel that they've done a really strong job at curriculum adoption and implementation, we want to highlight that and showcase that. So if you have that situation, please reach out to Kerry or me and let us know, and we'll contact you and kind of find out a little bit more information. But I think the way that we will help to build this knowledge is through connections, and it's other districts doing it. It's not ODE saying it. We all know when ODE says something, it's like, okay, is it compliance? Is it not? Okay. But the reality is it's the district story, and that's what we want to hear. So if you have district stories or school stories of a strong implementation or adoption, we would love to hear from you.
Have any questions in the room or online? Okay, I wondered if it might be helpful for those people that have participated in some of the webinars. Is there anything that you really appreciated or was helpful as you were listening to information that was shared during the webinars? I know that there are a few of us in the room that did participate. So is there anyone that would like to share something valuable from the webinar?
I can jump in, Janelle. I think, I felt pretty good about phase one. It takes you through different phases. It does a great job of giving a pacing guide of the entire process and a timeline. So those were really great resources in particular. I think the aha for me was the phase two that I did poorly the last round of, I'm sure I did many things poorly, but the one thing in particular was the phase two section where it's between doing a very thorough review of the resources, making the decision, and then I jumped too quickly to getting materials in teachers' hand, just providing that initial training, and not really having a solid plan for between getting the materials out into teachers' hands. You do a very thorough job of setting, what's our vision for using these resources, what components need to really be definitely utilized, what not to leave out, so that teachers they can still feel very overwhelmed with all of these materials, even though they're not going to be Googling or Teachers Pay Teachers or Pinterest anymore. So it can seem very overwhelming. So not providing that support up front, I think, would have alleviated a lot of teacher stress. So anyway, that was a big takeaway for me so far. But it's hard to find time to watch recorded sessions after the fact, guys. So while those sessions will be recorded, if they do offer it in the spring, it might be really helpful to just have that, forced time to sit and go through the sessions. I did find that helpful. It's always hard for me to go back and watch recorded things. So thought I'd add that piece of advice too.
Thank you, Tricia, for sharing your experience. I appreciate hearing that. And I think that there are other people that would find themselves sharing the same beliefs and experiences that you shared. I would also say I participated on the first webinar. I was able to jump on right along that same time frame. And I felt like I did a better job staying engaged and focused, and that was helpful for me. So I would echo what you said about sometimes difficulty with the recorded webinars, but valuable information nonetheless, even going back and just making that time to view what was shared during the webinar. Other people that participated in the webinars, anybody else want to share their experience or something that they found valuable? I'll add something. I was going to say, I felt that the downloadable tools that you have loaded were incredible, would be very helpful for folks going through an implementation or an adoption process. I also found those district vignettes were very beneficial. So I think those would be helpful resources for people that are working at the district level. Sherry, Kerry, anything else you would like?
I just want to say, Trisha, thank you for sharing that story, because you brought back a memory of an adoption that I did. And we did the one original day on our waiver day at the beginning of August. And I did not build a solid PD plan and support for teachers. And it's no wonder why that adoption didn't go better. And so I think the one thing the curriculum support guide does is it helps you to think ahead and build a plan. And that would have been extremely helpful to me. Janelle, the only other thing I would say is, our ultimate goal, our dream would be that ESCs and SSTs embrace the curriculum support guide and ed reports, and that you are able then to do the professional learning for your districts, so that, we build up the capacity of the ESCs and SSTs to go through a curriculum adoption and implementation process with districts. And then if there are supports that you need from the state for us to continue building, we'd love to hear them. So, hey, we hear that there are a lot of districts that are using Wit and Wisdom. Do you have a technical assistance provider that we could bring in for Wit and Wisdom that's grounded in high quality instructional materials? And we can tell you who that is. And then, you've got a business model in a sense on providing Wit and Wisdom professional learning to a cohort of districts. I think that's kind of where we're hoping, is that 610 districts, we can't reach them. It's Kerry and me. But you guys can. And so the more information you can spread out, and then the more you can tell us what we need to do to help support you, please do that. We'd greatly love to hear that. So thank you for allowing us here today.
Thank you again for joining us. And what we'll do is I'm going to be sending out an exit survey, and I will leave a section in the exit survey for specific questions that you have for Sherry and Kerry. And then I will send that information on to them. I will send you two an invite for another meeting to just follow up, touch base as far as potential next steps on our work. And we appreciate you spending time with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.